I'm here with Carol Van Asten, the director of Carden Academy, which is a kindergarten through 8th grade educational elementary school in Huntington Beach, California. And we're here to talk a little bit about the total method of what it takes to really teach a child nowadays. And one of the reasons we're making this video is that Carol has an exceptional background and an exceptional success record of really teaching children. And it's one of the things that I know a lot of people out there have a concern about, that children aren't really being taught to the standards and the degrees that they have in the past. So we're here to discuss some of the basics of education, and we're also here to ask people to, if they have an interest in the real education of children, to come and participate with us, because we want this information and we want Carol's knowledge passed on to future generations. We want to make sure that it's kept and it's cared for. Anyway, Carol, tell us a little bit about Carden philosophy.
The philosophy of Carden is to teach the entire child, to consider the whole child. We want children who are literate, we want children to be great in math, in composition, but we also want the arts, we want the music, we want PE, we want a complete child. So
what you have is an immersion. And tell us a little more about, I know one of the tenets of Carden education is the phonetic reading that was taught by May Carden, or was constructed by May Carden. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. In addition to our elementary school, which is kindergarten through 8th grade, we also have a preschool. And we start with the 3- and the 4-year-olds. And Miss Carden wrote a program for the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds. And it's really highly vocabulary development. And I picked up one of the books the other day that was in the room, and it was Runaway Bunny. And there's a little bunny who's going to run away from his mom, and she said, if you run away, I've got strong legs and I'm going to follow after you. So the little runaway bunny takes us on an adventure to all kinds of places. And imagination, one day he said, I'm going to jump into the pond and I'm going to be a fish to get away from you. Oh, do you really think you could be a fish? And then it goes on and on. Each page talks about the vocabulary, like the front paws and the hind legs and the strength and where he could go and what he could visit. And so it really involves the children. So from that vocabulary, the children develop a great sense of being able to speak complete sentences, and from there we go on to reading.
So what you're saying is that by the use of stories, there's an ability for the children to gain experiences, and it exercises their imagination, it exercises their verbal skills,
right,
and it also exercises their social skills, right, by having the proper setting and the quietness. Tell us a little bit about the background of what it takes for a child to learn.
A child needs a quiet setting, and there are going to be times where they're going to be playing outside and they're going to be playing with toys, and that's fine too. But at the quiet setting, short little periods of time where the teacher can involve children, maybe 6 in a group at a table, or 12 on a carpet, depending on the lesson. But then what we want is for children to be able to listen and hear what the teacher is saying. For example, the reading would be the beginning of the consonant sounds. So we would pick up a little phrase that would say, stinger of the bee, and the body of the bee says, ba. And we're talking about a bee. And we involve the children with knowing about the bees, learning about the bees, and maybe at snack time even have some honey out of cracker. But they totally get involved with the bee, so they remember the stinger of the bee and the body of the bee. And eventually they'll remember that it's a bee. So we work for a whole year in the 4-year-old program learning the consonant sounds.
Okay. Isn't there an element of making the learning their own in terms of my? How do you use my in terms of the children?
The children then begin to understand that is their honey, the honey that they could eat. It is the bee. Maybe they would make a puppet with the bee, and then they understand when they see a bee. The bee is a sound of a buck. And if you can think of a child learning all of these sounds for every letter in a quiet setting, then when they move into the kindergarten, which is like part 2 of that learning of the 4-year-old and the K, then they look at the vowels, the long sound of the vowels, and they're reading, like the word boat. Ba-oat, boat. And then we describe a boat. Now, it could be a sailboat, it could be a power boat, it could be a little boat in the bathtub, and it could be plastic. Would it be glass? Probably not glass, but it could be a boat that's glass on a shelf that Mother has see all that words, the vocabulary, and then the child is able to go back to his seat and he would be able to color a boat. He would be able to cut it out, place it on construction paper, and can you imagine creating the sand? And can you imagine creating the waves around it? Wow, that child is empowered to know about a boat.
So there's a multi-sensory aspect of it, and then there's also the imagination of even to have critical thinking about what could be a boat and what couldn't be a boat, to the materials that it's made of, and there's a general discussion of the nature of boats so that they understand how boats actually are in the world.
Right.
Okay.
So at the end of kindergarten, a child would know at least a couple hundred words that they could actually read. And then it doesn't take long before we would use those words that they've learned to put together in a sentence. For example, Joan makes a cake. And we would read it, Joan makes a cake. And then we would learn that Joan is the who in the sentence or the noun. What is she doing? Making. There's the verb. And what does she make? The cake. So what is the cake? The cake is the most important, or we call it the key word. And from there we'll say, well, tell me more about a cake. Well, a cake is actually the dessert that Joan is making. Now, what's the age of Joan? Oh, that's up to the child. It could be a little child making play in their little kitchen, or it could be their mother, or it could be their sister. It could be anyone. So there again is their imagination. But they are learning to read, and they know those words.
Okay, and also in the imagination is in play, but also there's a direct participation where the child gets to